Just quickly generalize and summarize things in this whole thing. So if we have any basic angles, right, and we want to find find that we want to understand what does it actually mean. So if I have a basic angle in the second quadrant, okay, and let's call this basic angle alpha. Okay, this basic angle here is alpha. Okay, sine of 180 degrees minus alpha will which is actually just here, right? This is the angle you want. This angle here is 180 degrees minus alpha, which usually is what we want to find, right? And in this case, it will just give you a positive sine alpha. Next, if you want to find cosine of that, it will just simply be a negative value, right? ASTC. So in this case, this will be negative. Negative of sine alpha, and this will just be negative. Sorry, not sine. What am I doing? Cosine alpha, and over here will be negative of tangent alpha. Okay. Then if we have it in the third quadrant, so in third quadrant, this is where your angle is. This angle here would be alpha. And you realize everything is based on your basic angle, so that's something you have to take note over here. And this orange angle here will simply be 180 degrees minus alpha, and there we have it. So we can figure that out. So sine of 180 degrees plus alpha is simply just negative sine alpha, and for cosine it will also still be negative cosine alpha, and here will be positive tangent alpha. I'm just applying ASTC throughout, and then we can go on to over here. Okay, which is now we have the basic angle here, which is alpha. This is alpha, and we're talking about the angle from here all the way to here, and this is 360 degrees minus alpha, and ASTC. So the cosine of this angle will simply just be the cosine of the basic angle. And last but not least, this will be the negative, because it's in the fourth quadrant, and there will be negative. Okay, last but not least, we have negative angles. So if we have negative angles, we have to really decide carefully based on the negative angle. So if I'm talking about negative angles here, this will be alpha, and hence sine of negative alpha, okay, let's just say this is negative alpha, will just be negative sine alpha, which is just simply the quadrants that we're talking about. In this case, cosine of negative alpha will be a positive value, so it will just be cosine alpha, and tangent of negative alpha will simply be negative tangent alpha. It's all because it lies in the fourth quadrant. So that's the summary for this entire part. Then I'll move on to extra example. So if let's say I tell you two angles lie in the same quadrant such that cosine A is equals to negative 4 over 5 and tangent B equals to 1 over 3, find the value. So before we actually figure out all these values, right, we need to actually figure out which quadrant does these angles lie in. So since cosine A is less than 0 because it's a negative value, okay, A lies in second quadrant or the third quadrant. Okay, then we will look at B. So since B is a positive, tangent B is positive, okay, B lies in first or third quadrant. So we can safely assume that A and B lies in third quadrant. So we're going to focus our attention of these angles in the third quadrant. So I'm going to sketch my, okay, always sketch the axis such that you have a good picture of what is going on here. Okay, so I have this over here, and if it's in the third quadrant, the angle we are looking for, angle we're looking for is actually from here to here, which is in fact just simply we need to find the basic angle here. Now since they are all equal in terms of the basic angle, let's draw a right angle triangle here. Okay, and since it says that cosine of, oh, let's talk about, let this be alpha. Okay, so let this be a. Okay, it's negative 4/5. So I can safely say that, let's say this is the hypotenuse of a. The reference line here will be 5, and here will be 4. Okay, we can straight away use Pythagoras theorem to actually find the opposite, which is just simply this opposite here is just simply the square root of 5 square minus 4 square, which is equals to 3 square. So let's find the opposite of basic angle of A is equals to square root 5 square minus 4 square, which gives you 3 square. 3, sorry. So that's how you find that. Okay, that we'll come to B later. So B is 1/3. It means that the opposite is 1, and your adjacent is 3. So actually, if we were to draw the B angle, the reference line would be somewhere here, I guess. Okay, this is the reference line. So let's use a different color. B is actually from here all the way to here. This is B. Okay, and same thing, I'm gonna draw a triangle here. This is, we don't know the length of this, but we know this is 1 and this length is 3. So from here we can figure out the radius, the reference length of reference line, length of the reference line, of angle B is simply just square root of 1 square plus 3 square, which gives you square root of 10. Okay, so we know that this orange length here is square root 10. So with these angles, we can actually figure out all our questions now, which is simply, firstly, we have tangent negative A. Okay, negative A is the opposite. Oh, okay, so if we're talking about tangent negative A, that's totally differently, right? That would be, it means that we kind of flip the angles towards the second quadrant. So for this question over here, okay, we're gonna just quickly draw this. Tangent negative, this tangent negative A would be here, but in fact this is just a mirror image of what we have earlier. Okay, so this is negative A. It's a mirror image of what we have earlier. So we can use the mirror image of A. Or maybe I should draw it better to scale. Such that you can see it. Right, if it's a mirror image, this would be 5. This is negative A, right? And so here will be 4 and here will be 3. So we know that this lies in the second quadrant now. So negative A lies in the second quadrant, and hence the answer is just simply going to be the basic angle over here. Let's call the basic angle alpha, right? Okay, let's just give it this basic angle, let's call it alpha. Okay, the basic angle of B, let's call it beta. Okay, so it will just simply be equals to the negative of the tangent of alpha. Okay, which is simply negative of 3/4. And that is your answer for tangent negative A. Next we have B, which is sine of 2 pi minus B. 2 pi minus B is in fact lying in the fourth quadrant. So if we were to draw it here, oh, this is a pretty long part. Okay, 2 pi minus B, it's here. It is a mirror image about the x-axis, right? So this is 2 pi minus B. Okay, and hence we have beta here, and since it's just a mirror image, we know that this length is actually square root 10. This is 1 and this is 3. So from here, we can straight away say that this will be equals to the negative of sine beta. Okay, because this lies in the 4th quadrant. And hence this is negative. Sine is opposite of the angle, so it's negative 1 over square root 10. Okay, last but not least, part C, cosine A over cosine B. This is pretty simple because we already have all the values. So cosine A will simply be negative 4 over 5. We want to find what's cosine B. Cosine B is adjacent over hypotenuse, which is simply AST. So also lying in the 3rd quadrant, it will be a negative 4 over square root 10. And this will give us, the negative will cancel out. This will give us square root 10 divided by 5. And that's your answer for example, for this example that I've added into this part. Okay, so that's all. See ya.